Greetings, everybody. I'm in my kitchen today. I'm catching up on some canning. I got a really good price on some pork, so I'm going to can up some carnitas for the summer. But that's not what this is about. I'm here on my table. I thought I would take advantage of the table and me having to sit by the canner to keep an eye on it. The last video you saw, I think, from me maybe was last time I talked about my cat's eye taro, and I trimmed it. It came out beautifully, and I edged it. And I told you, I mentioned I thought I would make a bag for it. One of the reasons being, I normally keep the deck wrapped up in one of my grandmother's handkerchiefs, which I really love to do that. And I do that for some of my decks. I have also, this is how I wrap them. This is the Force of Enchantment deck that I've also showed you last time, wrapped up in another handkerchief. But what I want to show you is this is what happens. These handkerchiefs, I don't know the dates on them, but my grandmother's been dead since 1990, and she was, of course, born in 1898. That's not relevant, really. But she used handkerchiefs her whole time, hankies as she called them her whole life. And these are probably I look at the colors, it probably dates to the 60s or 70s maybe. I'm not sure. But anyway, this is one that I keep the Force of Enchantment in it. As you can see, I have my tie inside. I've showed you that when I bind my decks to me. I keep the string that I use for binding with it. But this is what happens. Look at this one. As I unwrap and wrap and wrap and unwrap, it's sort of sad, isn't it? It's old fabric. It has some holes. It has some other holes starting. Most people would take these and throw them out. Just throw them out and make a bag, whatever. I don't want to do that because these have the energies of my grandmother, the energies that I've had in them forever. Particularly when I bind them in this cloth and keep the cord, everything together. That's the energies I put in them. That's how I roll here at the Crone House. So I thought what I was going to do is I thought I would make a bag. Now you've seen me. I have several channels where I have crocheted bags, which I love to do these because these stack so beautifully and there's room in there for whatever you want. But also if I don't make bags, that kind of bag, I have made some of these bags. And this is a bag I use for, this is where my green witch stays in here. And it's just linen. It's just linen. It's scraps of linen. I make them out of linen because 20 years in a historical recreation group, I made a lot of clothes out of a lot of linen, both our outer dresses and underdresses and veils. And I have linen in every color and and I still have it. Which I love because it's nice and sturdy. But that doesn't help me with the dilemma of the cloth, right? Of the cloth. This is the cloth that goes with my cat's eye. So I thought, why not make a linen bag out of just a plain linen bag? And then I'm going to use the handkerchief as well. Use the linen bag for the outside and to give sturdiness. And apply the outer bag, the handkerchief to the outer, so that's the bag, but it's sturdier and it'll hold up better. So I'm going to do that today. I'm going to bring you along and just show you. I will edit most of this away while I'm working and canning my carnitas. But I have to start, and I did look at the handkerchief, and it's plenty big. If I fold it in half, which I need 2 sides, it's plenty wide and it's plenty long that I can do that. So I'm going to make the bag first, fashioned after these bags that I make with the drawstring, which I love so much. I do want to say this bag is bigger than I need. It's even bigger than I needed for my green witch, but I like to stuff other things sometimes inside bags. Like sometimes it'll be the silly little book that goes with the decks, especially if it has some interesting takes on the card that I want to remember. But also, I will put things in here if I'm going to carry them to do readings elsewhere. I can put crystals in here. I can put, sometimes I've even tuck in a sage wand or something like that, or some Palo Santo or something in there on the side to it'll carry those things, So other kind of charms, So some of the bigger ones, if I wanted to pair them with a Lenormand deck or another deck, sometimes I can get 2 in here. So that's why I do it. But I'm gonna just take this in mind. Now you could see that I don't know if you can see that or not. Again, my light's so bad, I don't know. And it's not helping. I'm not helping matters wearing my pink. I apologize. But mostly you're not going to be looking at me, so don't get mad. Don't get mad. I do this by hand because I can sit here while I'm watching my canner or while I'm watching TV or I'm just, whatever, working on something else. I can pick this up and do the handwork. I'm so good at handwork because I did so much of it. I've done so much of it. I can use machine. You can do the same thing by machine if you want to make something like this. But, getting a machine out for me is like making a mess because I have to get the machine, plug it in, do all that stuff, just all that stuff that goes with the machine. When I'm going to do it by hand, I need a needle and thread and maybe a couple pins. That's it, and little scissors to set my thing. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to make it out of. And I got in my drawer of linens, I have a whole chest of drawers for which is full of fabric, and I found some scrap linen that I'm going to show you just the steps that I do. It's interesting. I don't know, but I'm going to show you anyway. So stay tuned. I'm going to just change my camera and we'll begin. Okay, here on my table, I don't know if you can see this better, but I thought I could show you. This is better against the dark table here. Let me move this thing. Here's the handkerchief. This is what happens to these old handkerchiefs. I think these little holes in them, right? They get little holes everywhere. And, but they work. I've been using this for, probably, I don't know. I think 15 years probably that I've been using it on my cards. Not this one, but I mean the idea of wrapping my cards in something, in handkerchiefs. So anyway, this is why I'm going to save this one. I'm going to use this one for the Enchanted Forest Tarot later if this works out. This is the handkerchief I'm going to use now. This is the hanky, as my grandmother would call it, the hanky that I used for the cat's eye, and I love it. It's such a beautiful little floral pattern, very old-fashioned and very soft, which I like that for the cats. Okay, so I'm going to build it out of just like this. Here's my set that aside for right now. Here's my little bag. I laid it out to see. I took measurements to see how big this bag actually was, and I find that it is 4.5 inches. Here's my ruler. 4.5 inches wide, and basically, 6.5 doubled, 6.5, which is 13, because this is folded. It's just folded in half. And long, let's see, long. And then I added inside, you can see the inside where I finished the edges inside. Maybe you can see, I don't know. There you go. I finished my seam, so I added that's a quarter. Yeah, it's a 1/4 inch and a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch each way. So it's a 1/2 inch seam that I just tuck under and finish. And I just do this by hand. I do it very quickly. The top, we have basically where the drawstring goes. It's basically a 1/2 inch folded, and so that would be a whole inch on each end. So I'm adding whatever I'm adding, my measurement that I want that the bag is. I would add an extra 1/2 inch on each side, and I would add an extra inch top and bottom. Okay, so that's how much. That's just to give me an estimate because I'm going to go a little smaller. I don't need this big of a bag. So I found in my linen drawer one of the little drawers. This is my white linen. I thought I would use white. This is actually a sleeve, part of a sleeve that I was using. You see, it's folded. I just have it folded. I folded it. Well, I folded it to cut it. It was folded, and then I folded it to make sure to see if I had enough width, you know, and length and width. If I need 13 inches, can I go down? This will be making two bags. I could cut them both at the same time. If I go down 13 inches, which is what I needed, 14, 15, this is a 12, and then a few more inches down. I've got plenty to go, whatever my width is. To get 4.5, I can go this. Let's see. If I wanted to get 4.5, or I need 5.5. I don't think I need 4.5. That's what I wanted to say. Because if I'm going to take my bag and put my deck in here, I've got, well, I could take an inch easy off this measurement if I took an inch. So even with the other deck, if I took an inch, let me see if that'll work. Yeah, if I took a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch, that's an inch. So if I would just make it without the adding that 1/2 inch and adding the inch, it would be fine. So if I could just find a rectangle for 4.5 wide by 13 long, I think we're good. And I have plenty of that, okay? So that's just what I wanted to say. So what I do for mine, and I won't go through the tedium of this, but what I'm going to just do is I'm going to make my draw on my fabric, front and back. I'll draw it on the front, and then when I cut it, it'll be front and back both. A rectangle that is approximately the size I needed, remembering to add 1/2 inches on each side. And ease, you always want ease. So my rectangle I'm going for, I think, is going to be 13 long and about 4.5 wide, because I think that'll give us plenty for the finished bag. So I will do that and cut that out, and then I will show you my next step. Okay, what I ended up doing, first of all, is I took two pieces, pretty much as long and as wide as I could do, because I wanted to make sure, since these, if I'm making two bags, my cards are, you know, one's a little bit longer, the other a little bit thicker, a little bit fatter, take up more room in the bag. So the second bag I might want to make be sure it's long enough. I can make those adjustments as I go. But what I ended up doing is I cut on the cut two, and then I went along the edge here, the length, and I just made a very narrow fold approximating 1/4 inch. It's just approximate, it's just a tarot bag. And then I folded that again a second time and secured that with a pin. Okay. My choice was I wanted to hem these two long edges before I put it together. So it's you know, just anybody could do that. It's just a double fold, finger pressing as I go. If you're fussy, get out the ironing board and press it in, or fold it once and press it, and fold it twice and press it. I don't know. I don't do that. This linen is very forgiving. It's very soft. I love it in my fingers, and because it's, you know, we buy it and then before we make anything from it, it's pre-washed and dried. So it'll shrink a little, because it'll shrink. Not that we're going to wash our tarot bags really, but you know, when we make it for in this case it would be an undergarment. This white linen. Get a lot of washings. So we pre-wash it first, and it gets so soft. Oh my goodness, it just gets, I love the feel of it. Of course, 20 years of wearing it has caused me to just be really crazy about the way it feels. But anyway, as you see, I'm just what I do is I pin, since I'm doing it by hand, I will pin this edge And then I will do the same thing on this edge, same thing, fold it in twice, and pin that all the way down. And again, you see, I'm just doing approximately. I'm estimating what I think to be a 1/4 inch. I don't know. You might know more than me, but I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, I get that nice and pinned, and then I just take it and I sew it along the edges, and I end up with this. Okay, and this is what I wanted to show you. I hope you can see. I have it. Here's the hem. There's the other side. Okay. So what I want to do, and this is going to work fine because I can take my deck here. I can see if I put my deck in here and I were to fold it, I have plenty of room on the sides to close it. It's fine. It's going to be fine. Okay. So we're going to do the ends. I'll show you how I do the ends in a minute, but right now we have to make a decision before we do these ends. It's important that we do it now. We have to make a decision where do we want the inside of our bag, since this is going to be the inside of our bag, this piece. Do we want it to be finished? Do we want the seams to be hidden? The seam, our hemming to be hidden? Do we want this kind of a finish on the inside? You know what I'm talking about. You can't see the seam on the inside. Or do we want to see the seam on the inside like we do in this one? Then it might be important to you if you're going to finish the seams like I do. It's not important. If you're not going to finish your seams, if you're just going to hem it on a sewing machine, you know, sew this up, sew it, and sew it, you can do it that way as long as you have your frazzly bits towards, you know, covered up by the other piece. You can have that tuck in. You don't want to have those little fraying bits of unfinished seam allowance to be inside your bag, because if it depends on what kind of fabric you use, it could unravel and that could compromise your seam. But since I'm doing by my hand and it doesn't really matter to me, my inside can be this way or my inside can be this hem. And in most of my bags that I do like that, the hem is on the inside. I can feel the seam allowance on the inside, just like clothes, right? And not on the outside. For this, it doesn't matter because remember, we're going to apply the handkerchief to it. And let's say this is my finished bag. And I could do this, which, you know, I could have a seam. Let me get part of in the fabric. I would fold some under. This is what we're going to end up doing. And this will be seamed, and I will just be sewing that along there, okay? So it doesn't matter that the inside has a seam in it. I could also do it this way, where the outside goes along here. There's a seam. Okay, this would be sewn to here, which is what you would see on the outside, and the inside would be smooth without the seam allowance. I hope that's clear. I was clear. I don't know if it will be or not. But for me, I don't want any, since my hankies are, you know, they're old and they're a little bit delicate. I don't want anything to structurally compromise this. And I also don't want to see, because it's thin, I don't want to have this bump on the outside here. I don't want to feel that bump. So I'm going to make sure that my outside is the same as it was on the finished bag. So my inside seams will be inside. I feel like I'm talking gibberish, but I think you know, if you are enough of a person who can, if you can sew well enough to make a bag, any kind of a bag, you can understand the jargon that I'm using. You understand what I'm talking about, I think. Okay, so before I can do anything with the outside of the bag, I need to finish the tops, because the decision, if we're going to go have this on the inside, we have to fold down for our casing this way. Okay, so this would be our outside with the seams. But since I want this to be my inside, I'm going to fold down my casing just like you would think, okay? And in this case, remember, instead of a 1/4 inch and a 1/4 inch, we're going to take about a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch. So, because we want the casing to be roomy enough, you see here, to take the strings of the drawstring, okay? We're forming, by hemming this top, by hemming the top, we're forming an opening here, a little channel for our cording to go through. Can you see that? Can you see that? And I'm going to hem this first. I'm going to see this was hemmed first all the way down, so that when I go to put that down like that, however I do it, let me pin just to show you briefly. I have to measure, but I just want to show you quickly what I'm talking about. This will be sewn, okay, and the other one will be sewn like that, okay, so that when I go to put this together now and do the side seam, this will be sewn, this will be sewn here, this one will be sewn, this will be sewn, this will be sewn, and then when I go to put them together, you can't tell with all the fabric in here. There will be a channel that is finished. I won't have fraying strings and stuff coming out. You notice when I close my bag, I open my bag and close my bag and open my bag. I don't have any fraying because this is all finished. It's actually even sewn down so that you can't possibly fray. Okay, so this is what we're making. We're forming this, maybe that's a good way to look. We're forming this channel on each side for my strings, okay? All right, so I'm going to do this, I want to do this about a 1/2 inch and about a 1/2 inch down. So, where's my ruler again? You know, you can use a ruler or you can just estimate. And this isn't real straight, as you see. So I'm just going to do that one. Doesn't matter so much. It's this one that really matters. That this is a good 1/2. I need to make sure this is a 1/2 because I want it big enough. Actually, it's almost an inch. I think I want to do it that way. Make this a little bit, and then this down. No. Like that. And mine's actually 3/4 inch. That's about 3/4 inch. It doesn't matter. It depends on what you're going to be using for your cording. I have pretty heavy cording here. If I use something delicate like, you know, this is pretty heavy. This is pretty thick cords. This one is thin. What I used in this bag, that was very thin compared to these strings. This is a different size. Okay, it's probably a size 3 and this is probably a size 5, I think. It doesn't matter. I don't think you can see that. Can you see the difference in the strings? Maybe you can, maybe you can. But anyway, if you're going to use the narrow cording, it doesn't matter, or a string or a ribbon, you don't need this quite as big. So just, you know, keep that in mind when you join it. And then I want to make sure that this gives me a good, I want to make sure it's straight. There we go. And I pin that down real good. And I'm going to sew along there, and I'm going to sew along here. Same way. And before I sew it, I'm going to check it. That it's nice and straight. As straight as it can be. That the edges meet up properly. But you'll see I'm going to fix that too. I'm going to take care of that too. So that's, okay, we have here, this is going to be, I'm going to sew this down because then I'm going to end up sewing this edge and tacking the top. You'll see that when I get to it. And this is going to be the size of my bag. Now let me see if my cards, if that's going to be good for my cards. And my cards are going to sit here, lots of room here, and lots of room at the top, so they will close. I can even put them inside to see how they fill up the bag when they're inside. And again, it will close. Okay? And it will close. Let me see. I might make this a little smaller. I was pretty generous here. And where I can take away is I can fold this one less than this one and make that a little longer. So you just, you have to play with it. You have to use your judgment. Since we don't have actual patterns and our cards aren't always the same as the next deck, we have to be flexible. We have to be flexible with how we do that. But I just want to be generous. Generous is always better. The more generous you can be. I mean, we don't want it ridiculously small. But we don't need to have room to, park a car in there either. It doesn't have to be that big. All right. And of course, if I wasn't starting with scrap fabric, it would not be as difficult. But, I have larger scraps, but I did not want to be there. And now I have a little more length. And they fit in there. Little more length, and they fit in there a little better. See, now I have a lot more room. Okay, so that's what I'm going for. So I'm going to go ahead and sew these two edges, just the hem along here, hem along here, hem along here, and I will be back. I hope this video is making sense because I'm putting it up in little bits, but I wanted to show you where I am. The first thing I did before I went any further, I did hem the sides, as I said too. It's hard to tell. I just have the top, the casing for the drawstring pinned down, because what I'm doing first is I wanted to make sure that how I could fit this on the handkerchief so that it works. That was my goal. So I wanted to do it and center the design to see what that was going to look like. The bag, and as you can see, it's going to be nice. I have these little corners. They don't have to match, but that's what on the diagonal I got that kind of a effect, which I kind of like. So when I go to put it on, I'll try to center that a little bit in the center, this little bit in the center, and straighten it up a little bit. But as you can see, I have this upside down. I have it not the way I want it. I want it to be so. I mean, I need it, but I want to be able to. I want to sew the bag together first before I apply the hanky, right? I don't want to sew it and then sew it, because I want my seam to be here and here. I want these to be seamed with these sides up here, if that makes sense. And I'll show you on another. I will show you on another. Fortunately, I'm making two. I have two of these going, so I can show you what I'm doing. But this was just to see how it was going to fit, how it's going to go. And once I get it on there, I'm going to, because I don't want to do it this way. And as you can see, I have to not only sew the sides, I also have to sew down the casing for the drawstring on both ends. Now, this is what I wanted to show you. I'm going to show you my other one. A step I neglected to show you is, I will show you on here and then I'll show you on the other one too. I have secured, and you'll see on the other one better, this edge of my first fold down. The first fold down of that, I just stitched. Use a big needle. I stitched this just to keep that closed. So when I go to open this casing, you see, open the casing, see, open the hole to put in the drawstring, I don't have these bits fraying out into the thing. I don't want that to happen. I want it to be nice and neat. Nice and neat. Okay, so I will show you on another thing first. I'm going to take this away. Here's on the other one. And here's what I was talking about. When I take the first turn down, see, I stitched both sides, okay. When I took the first turn down for the casing, before I went any further, I stitched here. I just tacked that down so that it was not going to fray. Because you can see this is linen and it's going to fray. If you don't finish the seams, it will fray. And I don't want that. We don't want a bunch of strings inside the cards. There's nothing more irritating than pulling a deck of cards out of a bag and bringing strings with it and getting entangled in strings. So that's why we wanted to come in and out of the bag neatly and efficiently. Okay, so what I would do now is, since I have, now you can really see, because you can see I have attached it here, tacked it here. I turned it down that much. I'm ready to turn it down one more time. So I'm going to turn it down right, and this is going to be about 1 inch. Because I want to have room for my, I don't really need 1 inch, but about 1 inch, something like that, 3/4 to 1 inch. What is that? That's about 1 inch, 6, 7, 8, something like that. It's estimate. Okay, so I'm going to put that, and I'm going to pin here, and I'm going to pin here. Get those ends in there. Just so it looks kind of straight. That's all we want. Okay, and then I'm going to pin in the middle just because I don't normally put on these many pins, but you might need to. And I hope you can hear me because my canner is going in the background. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch across here. Like that. This end is finished. And you see, because I secured this inner, the first one, when I open it, when I open this with my drawstring, there you go. When I open that, it makes a hole. It doesn't, this edge doesn't come out, and you can see the definite place where it's going to go. And it will even be better when it is full. There, that one you can see really well. Okay, for me to insert the drawstring for the sides. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, because I said I wanted this to be the inside, after I sew this edge here, I'm going to sew that down. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it together, right sides together, and I'm going to sew. I'll use my little needle. I'm going to sew from this, the bottom of my casing, down. The bottom of my casing from here down. Okay, that's where I'm going to go. And then I'm going to have, this is sort of open at the top. It's open at the top. Now I have an option. I can't, like as you see here, I left that open. It doesn't need to be closed because you see, this is open. I didn't sew anything there. Did not need it. Because when I go to draw with the drawstring, it's closed. Where's it going to go? It's not going to go anywhere. Now, the reason I say you have an option is I have made, when we did all the camping, I have used these muslin bags for homemade soap that I gave people as gifts and we use all the time when you're camping, that I sewed a cotton cord as a drawstring, and then when we had these little bags that were like this, but they were just muslin, plain color, plain white. We would put our bar soap in here and string it up, and then when we go into the shower, we could either shower through the bag, that works really well, or if you're a purist, take out your soap, lather up and wash yourself really clean, really nicely, put your soap back in the bag, or just leave it in the bag as it was. And then these ties, they go on a pavilion stake up on the pavilion poles, up on the top of the poles where the pins come out is what we did, or some kind of a pole or stake, and they hang. And they hang And everybody's pavilion had these bag of soap hanging outside their pavilion to dry, to keep it dry. And then when we go to breakdown camp, we have dry soap and we can throw it in whatever our box or whatever we have it in to go home. So this works really well for that. So in that case, I did, because I use a thinner material, I did stitch. I put a just tack stitch. I sewed to here, and then I put a tack stitch here. I think that's foolish and unnecessary, and I don't do that anymore. I just leave that open, and you will see when I go to put in the cording that part is just open. The way I put in the cording, 2 directions, it keeps it closed. I don't have to do anything to it. It's fine. Okay? I hope it makes sense. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew this from here down, from here to the fold, and then I'm going to sew on this side from here to the fold. Oh, first I'm going to sew this. Sew this first, and then I'm going to sew from here to the fold, and then I'm going to sew from here to the fold, and I will end up with something like that. Then I will turn that right side out, and then using this layout, I will say layout, of how I positioned my hanky on the bag, because this is exactly the same. See, these are the same. But in this case, it's going to be sewn together this way. It's going to be sewn. I'm going to then show you how I can position it on the bag, and then I can attach it on the bag. The reason I'm going to say it again, that I wanted this to be sewn first before I attach this, is because I do not want any pressure structure on this fabric. You see, I don't want any stress on this fabric, as it is already old. The stress from the deck being inside and all of that, putting in and out, will all be taken out by this linen, very sturdy linen. Okay, this is decorative only. That's why I'm doing it this way. But if you're going to make a bag, you've made a bag here. You just sew it, sew sides, and then I'll show you how to put in the string. And you've made a bag. Tarot bags are easy. Don't be scared. They're really easy. Okay, I'll come back when I have a little more to show you. Okay, I finished sewing the bag. As you can see, I hope you can see, I found it and I flipped out the bag, turned out the corners. So basically, I have a tarot bag. All I have to do at this point is add my drawstring at the top, which you can see I have pockets, really nice pockets to insert the drawstring into. I'm all ready to go. But I don't want this to be my bag. I want my bag to look like this on the outside. So now that I have, my next step is, now that I have it the right way, I want to apply this handkerchief to the outside. I'm going to just, baste it however it is. Remembering that this is the part that's going to take the brunt of the stress of having deck cards in there. And I will check it by putting my deck in it. The one I want to use to show that it's going to be okay, it's going to be good. It's absolutely going to fit it beautifully. Okay. It's going to be really nice. It's going to have a place for the drawstring, and it's going to be really pretty when I put this handkerchief on it. Okay, so that's good. So now I have to take it off of here. But I'm just making mental note of how I had it on here. I have this, remembering from point to point is pretty much from this point around to here, pretty much close enough. And I have these little places here I can sort of center it so it looks good, and the motif will fall in the center. Okay, so when it's folded, it will kind of be like that when it's folded. Not that. Kind of be like that when it's folded. So it'll be pretty. I think it'll be pretty, but this will be more centered. I'm going to try to center it. So I'm going to get up my courage, and I'm going to take this off now, because this is the bag I'm going to be using. This is my extra bag. So I'm going to break here. I'm going to take it off there, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to base it. Now what I want to say is, I believe I have to get this point, this point ready up here. As you can see, this is the inside. I would have this coming down to fill that up. I would have this end down to fill that up, and just enough to turn this under. However, I will just cut it so that it'll turn under and it will baste here. Okay, so I want to get those ends secured first, and then I will worry about cutting this and basting that on along to the sides. So I don't know if it's going to work or not. We'll see. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's just some scraps of linen and an old hanky. Okay, we'll see if it works. I wasn't going to show here. I'm really involved in trying to fit this on here. As I said in the last clip, I'm sorry, but there's been time lapse between these clips, so I'm not sure what I said. But here you see me. I have turned my bag right side out, the white bag, the inner bag, as you can see, and I have sewn it. In place, okay. And I have also, I'll show you on this one, tacked this edge in the hem so that when I go to sew, when I sewed the seam, I could open it like that and leave the casing. That's, I think, where I left off. So that was really important. And then I sewed up the sides. I did both of those, sewed up the sides, and then turned the bag right side out, seams inside, and that's where I am here. Now this is my second one for demo purposes actually, but here I have taken my handkerchief, and I showed you, I think in the past video, that I was laying it diagonally. I think that was the best way to get it to fit, and I just centered the motif sort of on it. Now I am slowly and carefully pinning my bag. As you can see, I've turned under. I've just taken this and turned it under like that. Just put the selvage in there, making sure. Making sure that it's going to lie flat before I pin it. Okay, and I just pinned it in place to here because I'm not sewing through it. I'm going to just sew through this top. Let me get a pin. I'm just going to be taking care to just catch this bag in here, this side of the bag. This side. See, here's the seam. Here's the seam, and I just want to go catch some of that into the bag. Okay, just some of this, so that the bag on one side is attached to the seam, then it won't rotate around. And then when I go to sew the other side, I can really just, I can do it a little bit, tack it in there from time to time, but then also take a stitch through the exterior this way. I sure hope you can see this. To keep this together so you don't see that white bag. But I, again, don't want any stress on this handkerchief because it's so, it's so old. So I'm going to just, that's why I'm tacking it in places to the bag underneath it. So any kind of tension, stress that comes on the bag, from putting cards in, this is just aesthetics. The outside is just aesthetics. But I want to say this is going to be a really nice bag. Okay, and the other thing I want to point out, and then I will do it, and then I'll show you when I'm finished. Again, we have this. This is the channel here. This is the channel here where the cording has to go for the drawstring. Okay, so when I go to sew this around here, I will just sew it, taking care only to sew it through this bag, the outer bag, and leaving this open. Okay, leaving that open. Can you see that? Oh, I don't even know. I hope so. Not that you're ever going to do this, but no use doing a video if you can't see what I'm showing you. Okay, but I really like the way this is going to be on here, this old this lovely old scarf on this bag. It's going to look so pretty. It's going to look really pretty. I love the feel of it. And that's what counts for me. Okay, I'll show you when I have this sewn on. Okay, I have the bag finished. The bag itself is finished. I'm really happy with it. Actually, it feels wonderful. I put the deck in, and the deck, see, it's not, it looks handmade. It looks terrifically handmade. It looks old, but it'll be great. It'll be great. And it is lined inside. See the lining inside. Seams are finished inside to the best I could do. A little tricky to get in my hand in here to work, to do the seams. Make sure that I was not catching the other side of the bag in my stitching. Usually I do some kind of a cord. This is just a chain, crochet chain stitch I did there. I did it here, chained several strands together to get the thickness I wanted. I've done loose set cord making, or you could do that, or kumihimo, whatever you do for cord, or you can just simply get a piece of, ribbon or whatever. I thought it'd be fun. I'm using up my scraps, and I thought it'd be fun. I have this yarn left over, pink, from making pussy hats. I made some pussy hats for the Women's March in Los Angeles several years ago. I don't want to get into that here, no politics here, but I made a lot, and I had a lot of pink yarn. I'll use a lot of pink yarn, but I thought this would be really good for here. And it's a nice, thick, chunky yarn, which will work fine. So I just wanted to show you how this is the simplest. You can either get a cotton cord or whatever kind of upholstery cording or kitchen string or whatever you want. But the simplest way to do this is, I'm going to leave this attached right now. I'm going to make a knot, simple knot on the end so it doesn't unravel. I'm going to put a big pin in my knot before I close it. Safety pin, close the pin, and I'm going to take, and I'm going to feed. That's going to help me feed through here. Anybody who sews knows how to do this, but some of you might not know, so you just use the pin to guide as you push it through. There's no way you can push yarn through a casing like this. Push it through, and to get the drawstring effect, I have to keep going to the other side. So I keep going across, bridge this gap, and I go across, keep going through the bag. So I get out the other side, okay, and I'm going to bridge the gap there, and then I'm going to see about how long I want it, and I'm going to cut the cord. Just going to cut the cord. They don't have to be particularly even right now. Tie an end on here, and I will trim the end in a minute. I'm going to take this pin out of here. And just even out those out a little bit, the ends. Okay, then I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to go in the other direction. So I'm going to take and I'm going to make a knot. Before I close the knot, I will put my pin in. Close the pin. Now, I went in this way because there's my ends. So this time I'm going to go in this way, under the bridge. There's the bridge. I bridge the gap. I'm going to go underneath it. And I'm going to go, again, put another piece in there. And depending on what you use, it might be a little hard. You might have to sort of push it, but it'll go. Because it has to squish up the yarn that you already have in there. Right? Okay? And this time I'm going to bridge the gap. These are my two loose ends, so this time I'm going to bridge the gap underneath again and continue on. come out the other side, okay? And then I want to have about the same length. About the same length. Let me go a little longer. So I have about the same length on the other side. That's pretty close, so I will cut here. And I will make a knot. Just a single knot, very simply. Take the pin off. And I will check. Even them up, even up the ends. So on each side, you have one that bridges the gap and one that is loose, okay? One on top of the other. And so in order to close it, all I do is simply close it like that. I can open it. Okay, so I'm going to put the deck in here and I'm going to come back and say goodbye. Well, that was a video. I don't know. I'm going to have to try to piece all the bits together to see if it makes any sense. But I did want to show you, I've got my deck in the bag. My deck, my trimmed and edged deck. And I even have room with a little white book in the back. If I was doing it again, of course, if I was making it and I had bigger fabric, I would have made it a little bigger. It's a little snug, but it fits in there pretty well. And when I tie it, I can tie it. I think I will tie it at the top with a little bow. I think that's what I'll do. It'll look cute. It'll look cute. Anyway, there it is. It's kind of cute. But it's a good way, a good memory, good way to keep that. I was limited in the amount of fabric I had because of I was using an old handkerchief. But there's other ways to do it. You don't have to do it at all. I don't think anybody will ever do it again. But you might want to, I think it is valuable, first of all, for you to see how to make these little bags, which are so simple that you can use for absolutely everything. If you use colors or different kind of fabric, just for a single thickness bag, it's a real quick and easy way to make a drawstring bag. Okay. The other thing is I wanted to say to you is using our own, making our own, spending time with our decks, whether it's to make a bag or it's to cut them or trim them or edge them or whatever you want to do, or just to spend time with them. Maybe do a little ritual where you can bind your decks to yourself. I've showed you that in the past. I think I have a couple decks that I have not done that with, so maybe that's a video for the future that I will show you if you haven't seen that. But anyway, it just helps you to get in it helps you to have a greater relationship with your deck. The more time you spend with it, the greater you get to know your deck. So anyway, that was it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. And also, oh my God, I got some carnitas for this summer. I've got jars of it. Where are they? Behind me. Cooling there. Came out of the canner and can't wait to have that. So that was a good use of my time while I was sewing when I was running the canner. Okay, thank you so much for watching. As always, I am Rebecca and I wish you blessings.